Thanks for tuning in. Today we're going to be reviewing the Bryton Gardia R300L rear bike taillight radar. Bryton teased their Gardia rear radar back in Eurobike 2022 as a long-awaited competitor against the Garmin Varia radar. Today we finally have that production version here to review, which also now competes with the Magicshine / Magene radar in addition to the Garmin Varia. So finally there actually is competition in the rear radar field, which will really bring the price down and bring more features. As you can see, packaging-wise, it's really simple. You have a nice graphic of the actual radar, specs printed on the back, and then some of the illustrations on how to mount it. We'll go ahead and take it out of the box and go over the specs. Retail price on this is $129.95, which actually undercuts Magicshine Magene as well as Garmin Varia. It also has some class-leading specs, such as a 190-meter range and 220 viewing angle. So a pretty wide angle to see cars behind you. They also have a standalone Bryton Gardia app, which means you can actually use this radar without a GPS computer using just the app in your cell phone. It has an integrated brake sensor, so it can detect your braking and then change the flashing to warn riders behind you. A 3-level status indicator with a battery status of up to 17 hours, which is pretty impressive, and USB Type-C charging port. In terms of what comes with this, you can see the radar here. You have the taillight and the radar portion here. We have the mount, so it uses a Bryton mount, so it's a little bit different from Garmin. It uses a little bit thicker tabs. This goes on your seat post. Then you have a USB Type-C charging cable, and then multiple attachments for the mount to accommodate different types of seat posts. So if you have a D-shaped seat post, you can use a flat surface. Then if you have an aero one, you can see the sculpted one to really let it sit in there flush. You have the quick start guide as well as the safety information as well. Now let's take a look at the weight of the radar. So the radar by itself comes in at 67 grams. Then if you use the standard seat post mount for a round seat tube, that comes in at 24. Visually, the Bryton Gardia R300L doesn't look that much different from existing radars, and there's a good reason for that. You basically have the taillight portion and then a large flat surface for the waves to bounce from and then reflect onto. So you want to make sure this is within a good line of sight above your wheel, and you place this on your seat post or even a saddlebag. What I like about the Bryton version is that it looks a lot more modern. Rather than going with the round LED design, they've gone with this more squared off with rounded corner approach. So to me, at least visually, this looks like a more modern device. You also have 3 LEDs. So you have a highly focused centered LED, and you can see, even though it's only 73 lumen maximum in the daytime bright mode, it actually is very bright. So this is a 20 lumen high mode, and straight on it's very bright, and that's because they've done a good job with the reflector. So it's highly focused. And then to illuminate the rest of the body, they've actually put in these small LEDs, and that just lights up the lens. So you have good side visibility, and even from the top, as the lens is sort of reflective. So they've done a nice job there. You'll also notice that there are other lights here on the bottom. So this has a little status indicator. So it'll flash green, it will flash red depending on battery status, or whether the radar functionality is on. So pretty slick, and dimensionally you see Bryton has kept it very similar to the Varia. So it's a long rectangular design with a fairly thin thickness. You have USB Type-C charging port, which is really nice to see here. Something a lot of Garmin devices still don't have. With a nice rubber gasket cover over it. And you'll notice it looks like a Garmin mount, but it's actually Bryton. So what this is, it's a slightly thicker version of Garmin. So these tabs are a little bit thicker. You don't want to put this on a Garmin one as it will damage it. Same quarter turn style mount, so you just twist it on, and they include this nice seat post mount. So you can see it has an offset design with 2 hooks. You wrap this around your seat post with this rubber strap, and you can see nice and thick, so it should last a while. What's interesting is they've offered a couple of additional pieces, so this can actually just push onto here, and this will work with a D-style seat post, so something flatter. And if you have an aero seat post, you can see this has the same protrusion design. You simply push it in there and it extends its profile. So you really get a nice seating on there. So if you have a very thin seat post, you can see it'll sit there nice and flush. They're pretty slick. Just make sure you don't lose these parts, so keep them somewhere safe. The other cool feature with this is the fact that you have a special Bryton Gardia app. So it's a standalone app. It doesn't require a login, which is really nice. So you don't have to worry about coming up with a username or linking accounts. It's actually pretty slick compared to the other apps Bryton has. You have a nice graphic showing the device once it's connected. And then if you click Start Riding, you get a radar view. So this will actually detect vehicles and show them here. You can change the sound settings, and you can also switch the light patterns. So you can see here, it'll actually switch between the different modes. So you have group ride, which is the pulse, daytime flash. So it's nice if you have an urban bike and you use your cell phone instead of a GPS computer, you can actually take advantage of the radar functionality. The app itself seems to be pretty nicely designed. Of course, there's a couple little glitches. The battery display doesn't really update properly, so the 17 hours should be for night flash and day flash, but it doesn't seem to update for the other modes. You can also run this with the light off mode and just get the radar functionality, which is kind of cool. Using the app, you do get a few extra features, so you can actually enable or disable the brake light function. So I actually recommend turning off the braking feature because it does drain the battery and you get less consistent run times. You can also set the alerts here so you can have sound or vibration for extra alerts when you're using the app. And then you can do the firmware updates from here. So pretty slick and a nice way to take advantage of the radar even if you don't have a compatible GPS computer. There are 6 different output modes with the radar. You have 2 constant modes, high and a low, where low is 5 lumens and 12 hours of runtime. Then you have 3 different flash modes, group ride, which is a little more gentle on the riders behind you, nighttime flash, which gives you 17 hours of runtime, and then the very bright daytime flash, which is 73 lumens and 17 hours of runtime. You can also turn off the taillight entirely and just keep the radar mode, which gives you 24 hours of runtime. Here you can see some riding footage with the daytime flash mode. It's very effective. We're impressed with the taillight. It has a very focus-centered LED, which means you're visible from quite a distance away. So it's a very good taillight, even on its own, which is pretty impressive as Bryton isn't really a taillight company. You can see the light actually switches between a couple modes. It has a warning mode when it detects a vehicle, so it's an erratic flash. And you also have brake mode functionality. Here you can see the brake mode being accidentally triggered. So it goes to a solid mode for a few seconds. As with any brake sensor, they're never that accurate, so you get false positives. And in general, we recommend just turning it off to get higher runtimes, as you can really reduce the runtime as constant mode will drain the battery. You can see the warning mode is very effective though. When it detects a vehicle, it gets very erratic, so it definitely catches the attention of riders and vehicles as you switch from whatever mode you're in to the more erratic mode. So pretty effective overall. Here you can see the braking when I'm actually braking, so it does work, but again, for long rides, I recommend turning it off. The Gardia radar information can be displayed on any compatible GPS unit. We have the Bryton S800 here, but you can use Garmin, Wahoo, or other computers that support radars as they use a standard transmission protocol. Where you're going to see is multiple colors, so either yellow, green, or red. Red indicates a high-speed vehicle, yellow is a moderate speed, and then green is all clear, and you can see up to 9 vehicles on the side approaching you. Here you can see a rear-facing camera with the app screen grab on the side. What you'll see is as the cars approach, they are detected and they are coming high speeds because I'm actually standing still, but you'll notice that clusters of cars don't show up that well. So it picks up the lead vehicle and then it only shows the vehicle behind it once that lead vehicle passes. With single vehicles, it works really well and it has a very far range, so even before you hear the car shows up on your radar. So you have great situational awareness and a very wide angle as well. So even if you're on the path next to a road, you will pick up the cars. But again, really the only issue we've noticed is that multiple clusters of cars don't show up that well, especially if the space between cars is small. We didn't have any false negatives, so every time there was a vehicle, we picked it up, and just an occasional false positive with stray radio waves bouncing back, even though there was no car. So overall, pretty nice device. Again, we think a couple more software updates would probably address some of these cluster issues, but otherwise a pretty nice job considering it's a new app and a new radar, and it obviously undercuts both of the Garmin and the Magicshine Magene. Now let's do a quick comparison between the Bryton Gardia and the Magicshine Magene. You can see pretty similar form factors where the Magene and Magicshine have gone more rounded, which mimics the Varia. The Bryton is a little more square, which is why I think it's a little more modern. But dimensionally, they're all very similar. Obviously, they've kind of copied each other and made them very close in size and weight. They also have the USB Type-C with the Magicshine Magene, but the big difference here is really the taillight design. So you can see it's more of a distributed design, so it's not that bright, while the Bryton has gone with that really focused single LED. So it's much brighter, even though it's only 20 lumens in some of the modes. It's very focused, so it really catches your eye, while this one's more distributed. So you'll see the Bryton from a longer distance versus the Magicshine. And again, I just think it's more modern in appearance with more battery status indicators rather than just a low indicator like you'll get with the Magicshine. So it's nice to see more competition. Bryton has also undercut the price, so they're even cheaper than the Magicshine Magene. So it's good to see more competition, which is see more features and lower price points, as a rear radar is a really nice feature to have on your bike. Now let's go over the pros and cons of the Bryton R300L. What I like about it is they have a highly competitive price. It undercuts the Garmin Varia and the Magicshine Magene radars, so you can afford this at a lower price. You also have a modern squared off design with a very bright LED. They've done a great job with the taillight design, making that center lens highly focused, so even though the lumen count isn't that high, you can see this light during the day from pretty far distances away. Also, you have great detection range with this radar, so it'll detect cars before you hear them, and you'll see them approaching you quite a distance away, so you can plan accordingly. The main cons for this radar is the fact that it uses a proprietary Bryton style mount, so you're more limited on accessories. And also you have inaccurate display of car clusters, so if the cars are too close together, it'll show you the first one and only show you the ones behind it after the first one is passed. We expect this issue to be resolved with future versions of the radar software. Also, the brake sensor can reduce runtimes, as with any taillight. We usually recommend just turning it off from the app to get longer runtime so you can do longer rides. Taking everything into account, we give the Bryton R300L radar an 8.8 out of 10. It's a nice rear radar with modern aesthetics, USB Type-C, as well as a brake sensor. Thanks for watching this review. Don't forget to like and subscribe. You can see more content from us on our website at thesweetcyclist.com, as well as follow us on Instagram at thesweetcyclist.